Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Market Update, where we discuss leading financial and economic developments in Europe, Asia, and North America. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. And first up, Canadian Cabinet Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who is spearheading Ottawa's trade negotiations with the United States, will travel to Washington this week for a pivotal round of talks with US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. The visit comes just days after Canada pledged to remove most of its retaliatory tariffs on American goods in a move designed to reset strained trade relations. LeBlanc confirmed the trip in a French-language radio interview on yesterday, saying he hoped the discussions would yield, quote, an agreement that will put us in a better position than we are in right now, end quote. While declining to provide specifics, he noted that the two sides have already identified, quote, circumstances that are very interesting for the American government, end quote. The minister's office later said he will depart Tuesday, today, with meetings scheduled in the days ahead. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced on Friday of last week that Canada would scrap counter tariffs on a broad range of US products that have been subject to Canadian retaliation since March. Those levies were originally imposed by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in response to American trade restrictions. By rolling them back, Carney signalled a willingness to engage more constructively with Washington while preserving leverage in politically sensitive sectors. Not all measures were removed, however. Canada will maintain 25% import duties on US steel and aluminium, along with certain tariffs on US-made vehicles. Those industries remain at the center of the dispute, with US President Donald Trump continuing to enforce a sweeping 50% tariff on foreign-produced steel and aluminium. According to US-based Bloomberg reporting, Lutnick had made clear that eliminating Canada's retaliation was a precondition for advancing bilateral talks. By partially complying, Ottawa hopes to create momentum for a broader reset. LeBlanc told Bloomberg Television yesterday that the strategy was aimed at, quote, opening a path for a wider agreement on trade with the Trump administration, end quote, while also preparing for the mandatory joint review of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, scheduled for next year. Still, progress will depend on Trump's willingness to compromise. Thus far, LeBlanc acknowledged Canada has seen no sign that Washington intends to ease its heavy tariffs on steel and aluminium, measures that continue to frustrate Canadian manufacturers and strain North American supply chains. For LeBlanc, the trip represents both a gamble and an opportunity. By softening Canada's stance, Ottawa hopes to prove its good faith and entice the US toward more balanced terms. But with Trump showing little inclination to reverse course, and frankly, why would he? Most of the world has actually already agreed to compromise with the US leader. The Canadian government must weigh the political risks of easing pressure without guarantees in return. As negotiations unfold in Washington, the outcome will shape not only the trajectory of Canada-US trade relations, but also the broader framework for continental economic integration. Next up, let's jump over the Atlantic to Europe. UK-based The Financial Times reports this week that venture capital investors are ramping up bets on European startups developing Iron Dome-style air defense technologies, as governments seek affordable ways to counter the surge in drone warfare. Prominent backers such as Lakestar, Lux Capital, and Accel have recently funded early-stage companies including Germany's Titan Technologies and UK-based Cambridge Aerospace. The influx of capital reflects both the evolving battlefield realities of Ukraine and shifting global defense priorities. Cambridge Aerospace recently closed a $100 million funding round led by Spark Capital, valuing the company at about $400 million. Titan has raised more than 15 million euros, while Sweden's Nordic Air Defense secured $4.4 million in seed financing. Russia's heavy reliance this year on Iranian-made drones, sometimes launched in the hundreds per attack, has heightened the sense of urgency for European governments. At the same time, US President Donald Trump's push for a new Golden Dome defense shield modeled after Israel's Iron Dome has galvanized investors to explore how Europe can strengthen its own protection systems. Quote, Europe has a huge credibility gap, end quote, said Max Enders, head of governmental affairs and business development at Titan, adding, quote, the old Western paradigm of shooting very expensive missiles at these very cost-effective drones that are constantly innovating is failing in Ukraine. End quote. Titan's approach focuses on affordability and speed. Its first product, the Titan Interceptor, is designed for frontline deployment, reaching speeds of more than 250 km per hour. The system combines off-the-shelf hardware and 3D printed components with artificial intelligence capable of detecting, classifying, and intercepting targets. Quote, "The aim is to always be cheaper than what we are shooting down," end quote, Indoors explains. Cambridge Aerospace, meanwhile, is in advanced talks with government clients about its Skyhammer interceptor, designed to neutralize large drones and cruise missiles at speeds of up to 700 kilometers per hour with a 30-kilometer range. A more advanced product, Starhammer, is in development and will feature a rocket-propelled engine. The company, chaired by a former UK Defence Minister, has emphasised control over its supply chain by producing key components such as propulsion systems and radar within Europe, with the chief executive last week explaining, quote, "We've identified the high-cost and less secure pieces that go into interceptors and in-housed these," end quote. Both companies acknowledge that scaling production will be their greatest challenge, yet even as peace negotiations continue around Ukraine, industry leaders believe demand will endure. Quote, "Our business is not tied to the Ukraine conflict," end quote, Indoors stressed, adding, quote, "What the war has shown is that in air defense and counter drones, we don't have the systems," end quote. If you want to be on top of the most up-to-date analysis on the biggest developments in the world's most consequential markets, consider subscribing to Market Update. Hit the bell notification icon and you will be. And if you're getting some value from today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And finally for today, we move to Asia. This week, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Shiba will announce a sweeping 10 trillion yen, $68 billion investment plan aimed at strengthening economic ties with India during his summit with Prime Minister Modi in Tokyo this Friday. The initiative, to be rolled out over the next decade, seeks to position Japan as a leading partner in India's growth story while also addressing labour and technology challenges at home. The plan targets 8 priority areas, including artificial intelligence, semiconductors, mobility, the environment, and medicine. A central pillar will be the AI Cooperation Initiative, which will foster exchanges of young researchers and promote the application of AI to social challenges. Both governments also plan to revise their 17-year-old joint declaration on security cooperation, signalling a deepening strategic as well as economic partnership. Semiconductors will feature prominently in the discussions. Modi and Shiba are scheduled to visit chip-making equipment maker Tokyo Electron's training center in Miyagi Prefecture, where Japan will showcase its advanced materials and equipment capabilities. India, eager to bolster its semiconductor ecosystem, views Japanese expertise as critical for building its own manufacturing base. Beyond technology, the investment plan will focus on talent and workforce development. Tokyo intends to expand its acceptance of Indian specialist workers in fields like semiconductors and advanced technology. Over the past 5 years, about 25,000 Indian professionals have entered Japan for work or training. Shiba has pledged to double that number within the next 5 years. Japanese firms are also investing in programs to overcome language and cultural barriers, with companies like Zombo Care already training Indian nursing staff for roles in Japan. The Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA, will broaden its official development assistance to back Indian startups too. Japan hopes these initiatives will give its firms a stronger foothold in India. The timing is strategic. Japan faces a projected shortage of nearly 790,000 high-technology workers by 2030, while India produces around 1.5 million engineering graduates annually. By tapping into this pool, Japanese companies hope to secure talent to power future innovation. For India, the partnership promises fresh investment, skill development, and expanded opportunities for its young workforce. And of course, Japan and India represent very powerful middle to large powers in Asia, both competing with a China in the middle. Japan will not want Chinese graduates. It is concerned of Chinese exposure to too many critical technologies. So, an alliance of sorts, cooperation between Japan and India, makes much more strategic sense. Together, Shiba and Modi aim to chart a decade of deeper economic integration with technology, talent, and, it is hoped, trust at its core. Okay, that is today's episode of Market Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a good Tuesday, and I will see you for another episode tomorrow.